I'm so glad you could join us today.
Good morning.
Yeah. Um, right. So if you out there are seeing this, you could let us know where you're beaming in from and if it's working for you. So you can drop that into the comments. Right. And so while we're checking on these live streams, yeah, I just want to say good morning. And this is Drawing for Tattooers. I'm James Wisdom. I tattoo at Artistic Skin Designs in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you can find me at Tattooing Wisdom on social media, as well as my website, tattooingwisdom.com. Um, and so, yeah, let me tell you a little bit about this network and what we're up to. So, welcome to Guy Atchison's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are all encouraged to join in these real events and live streams. Uh, we want to share, inspire, and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. Um, we beam out nearly every single day, and with your help, we've evolved into a quality network of on demand and streamable educational shows. So, we've all been receiving rave reviews, and so we appreciate that. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and leave us your comments, constructive comments, on on wherever you're checking it out at. So let's see. You can you can find out more about Reinventing the Tattoo at all these fine places: the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. We also have a Roku channel, as well as a Facebook page. We're on Instagram. You can just search for Reinventing the Tattoo. But you can always find the latest and greatest here. So if I may, I'd like to share my screen with the group. And there. There it is, right? So the Reinventing the Tattoo homepage, where you can always you can find the schedule, but of course, you can also find Reinventing the Tattoo, the book, right? It's an online book now. It used to be printed, but now it's here at reinventingthetattoo.com, and you can find all of the, there's always updates. There's a community, and there's all sorts of other resources that you should check out. Um, yeah, we're always updating. So there's free resources, free tattoo courses. We don't teach you how to tattoo. It's not, a little bit of a misnomer, but it is, these are courses that you can take that will help you understand your craft a little bit better, as well as, like art. And so these can be really helpful for your practice. What do we got here? Free courses. Ah, The History of Electric Tattooing by Jay Brown from the Northwest Tattoo Museum. A very cool course, and I've enjoyed learning more about the history of tattooing, and so I encourage you to do the same. There's also the free Reinventing community resources. Very cool. Um, and there's some other stuff I haven't checked out, but also Dirk Morrison's Longevity of the Tattoo Artist. I think this is crucial for tattooers. You should check this seminar out. Dirk Morrison goes into great detail as to the some of the do's and don'ts, some of the best practices to help you get the most out of your body, right? So you can tattoo for a long, long time. That's the I think that's the whole mission there. So yeah. So yeah. So as we scroll through here, oh, you can see that there is an app, Reinventing the Tattoo. You can find it on the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, um, and then we also have all sorts of our videos and stuff that you can check out. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see the event schedule. This is where you can zoom in. You can find out what's coming up, and you can also zoom in to all the programs. So let's go through the schedule. On Sundays at 1 p.m., we have Skill Building Sunday, hosted by Jason Leeser. Um, Followed on Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom. That's this show. You made it. Yeah, so welcome. We're followed at 11 a.m. On Mondays by the Tattoo Weekly. At 5 p.m. on Mondays, it's Let's Talk About Feelings, Robbie Ripple. Uh, 6 p.m. Usually once a month or so at 6 p.m. on Mondays, we have a paint night with Renee Little. It's very fun. Keep wanting to join it. I haven't had a chance to make it yet, so hoping to make the next one. 9 p.m. on Mondays, we have Reinventing the Tattoo subscribers exclusive drawing group. It's a great group. Consider joining it. It's you might get a lot out of it. So Wednesdays at 1 p.m. we have the Tattoo Now show. On Thursdays at 6 p.m. we have the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast. And so I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsors. Scroll down here. You can also ask Guy your questions, right? If you have questions, you can get some feedback, get some guidance. So that's here on the homepage. So yeah, worldtattooevents.com, where you can find out. I have something to read here. Largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. Lots of updates and conventions are rescheduling like crazy. So you can learn more about your upcoming tattoo conventions, tattoo events at worldtattooevents.com and Tattoo Now. Tattoo Now is technologies for tattooers, the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. Upgrades are competitive with any CRM, mailing list software out there. CRM is customer relations management. So if you want to you need help managing your relations with your customers, you check out Tattoo Now. So ask for Gabe. Yeah, and then so we want to let me move this. Yeah, right. So we also want to say thanks to Guy Aitchison for being the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. You can learn more about Guy Aitchison by visiting guyaitchison.com, where you can see his gallery as well as order original oil paintings, custom prints. I don't know if he commissions to oil, for oil paintings. I mean, you can buy some of his paintings that he's made. I don't know. Maybe ask him. But you can also get some of his incredible educational materials available here. The Biomech Encyclopedia is also available here. So yeah, check out guyaitchison.com for more. And yes, so that's it. Did it. Amber, thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Cool. Yeah, we've got some excitement in the chat. So hey,
I
chat.
was reading that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Congratulations, creature.
Let's see what's going on. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, congratulations, creature. Yeah, well deserved. And I know she's been working real hard,
Yes.
Trying to make her business, like a solid tattoo business. And so this is so celebration. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, couldn't be prouder. That's awesome. Yeah. So we're we want to celebrate the community, right? The community comes together, helps out, and this is we uplift each other, right?
Yes.
We uplift each other, and that's I think that's what's so important about about your group, about your friends, about the people you surround yourself with. That's the has to be that has to be the result, right? That you end up. I mean, now the real work begins, right? It's like so now the real work begins, and so it's like we all have to be sort of careful what we wish for. You might get it. Your dreams might come true, and then
exactly.
Then you're and then you're in it. But but I'm glad that it was just something that was so important. It is important, and so congratulations, creature. That's awesome. Um, yeah, looking forward to seeing um, your newest creations. So, anything new
Absolutely.
with you, Amber? Anything going on with you?
Um, Not really new. I'm just keeping my head down and working at the shop and working on skins and
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
perfecting my whip shading.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think that's it would be it's fun to work on practice skins and stuff. I mean, even if you do them, you do tattoos and stuff all the time, it could still,
Yeah.
it could still be this
I always like to
interesting
try new
thing.
techniques on fake skins first.
Hmm.
That way, if I screw it up, it's not on somebody forever.
Yeah, I think eventually, you kind of get to this, you get to this point where um, you are gonna try, things out for the first time on skin, on actual
Yeah.
skin. It will, it does get there. But I, but again, I think you got to be careful with that stuff. You want to be judicious, and so it's not
Mm,
like just go completely experimental all the time. But I think but it does happen, and so but I'm glad it's like you're like you're taking your time and you're doing, I think you're doing great work. We got a chance to see your some of your practice last week, and it was very impressive. So
thank you.
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to to seeing some of your newest tattoos once you start putting them out there. So we got Kyle Olson in the house. Hey, Kyle, good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning, guys.
Kyle.
How we
Great to
doing?
have you.
Good
Yeah,
morning.
again, great job on that stuff, Amber. You're kicking ass. It's super exciting.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Hell
I'm
yeah.
excited too.
Good. Good. That's the best part. I love it. I love tattooing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. After what, 10 tattooing like 13 years, and I'm still giddy like a
Yes.
little school kid and stuff like that. It's
I think
fucking
that's the best part of the job. It never gets old.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. The ups and downs, but it's so worth it. So
Mm,
yeah.
Yeah, no, that I think that's good morning, Kyle. Great to see you.
Yeah, morning.
And I think that's the thing that like that's such a cool aspect about it. I really had the opportunity this last weekend. I went to the Indianapolis Tattoo Convention. It was very cool. I got to see some old friends, and I got to meet some people. I got to meet Medusa
Oh,
and
cool.
Medusa Slays, very cool. And I also got to meet Dusty. He's on Robbie Ripple's show. Let's talk about feelings. So it was amazing to meet them both.
Cool.
They're reinventing regulars, so that was really cool. But another thing that I got to run into to one of my former students who ended up becoming is now about to start tattooing on
That's
people,
awesome.
right? She's an apprentice now, but she's about to start actually tattooing on people. And so
nice.
just amazing to see, this was like, she was in my class probably like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago or something like that. Um, she's a fantastic artist, and so it's really great to see like see her coming into something that's it's going to be a great fit for her. She's in a
Yeah.
great studio with really great mentors. So I'm super duper happy for her. And again, it's sort of this. It's this. We were just sort of talking about Creature. Creature's also got her shop is now recognized by her county, and so that's so great. So I mean, all these sort of um, everybody is like moving forward, making great strides in their career, and so I
Yeah.
think that's just it's really great news, right?
Mhm.
Some good news is for once, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's nice to have good news every once in a while, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, also real quick, I was able to do uh, some drawing classes at the Indianapolis Tattoo Convention this weekend. It was my honor. It was so fun. Got to meet some new students. Um, and so it was mostly apprentices and stuff, which I think is actually really good because that's a big part of the I think the mission. What we're trying to do. Is it's good. Some of the things we talk about, we try to keep the things that we talk about good for people of all levels, artists
Mm,
of all levels, but also it's really important, I think, for when you're beginning. It's something that kept coming up. There's this saying that people have. I don't know who coined it, but you gotta learn the rules so you can break them.
Mhm.
Is this sort of uh, uh, it's this saying, right? That it's a platitude. It's a banal platitude. You know what I mean? It's this thing that people say, and it's kind of like I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And for me, I'm starting to come to this idea, like you know, you got to learn the rules to unlearn the rules. If that makes sense.
mhm,
Right? You have to. It's good to go through learning stuff, trying, taking on the knowledge, right? That uh, has been so hard earned, right? But again, sort of being able to sort of put that out of your conscious mind and be able to to have some sort of uh, intuitive kind of play with what it is that you're doing. This I think is every time you sort of get rid of that, you negate that rule, you're still starting again from a different place, right? And so um, it, like riding a bicycle, for instance, or learning to walk even. Like, when you're very young and, you learn to walk or whatever, it's probably very difficult. You're thinking about a lot of things. But eventually, you don't have to think about them so much until you hurt your leg. And then you have to really think about it as, as a process. So the same thing goes, I think, with our, with any of our art making, you know, practices, tattooing and the like. A lot of things we need to learn, and then there's a lot of things that we need to sort of try to forget, so that way we can be in the moment and be intuitive as we're sort of producing stuff. I don't
Mhm.
know if that makes any sense to anybody or not, but
no,
um,
completely.
that's just some musings I've been having recently about uh, like what is education? Like what are we doing? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
um, we probably we're not gonna be anybody but ourselves, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and
So like,
so yeah, please.
so like the whole like gotta learn things to unlearn things. It makes me think of like the more you know, the less you know. You know what I mean? Like so like the more you learn about artwork and tattooing and everything like that, it brings up so many more questions. You're like, cool, I don't know anything. So
Yeah,
it's it definitely makes me think and wonder of like um damn it, my freaking brain. I had the thought and I lost it. You guys, yeah, yep, your turn. Uh, where'd it
I
go?
kind of understand what you're saying about being, in the moment and becoming intuitive, even in tattooing. Because when you're jamming and you're in that flow state and everything's working really well, you do kind of become intuitive. But
Mhm,
it's because you've already learned the feeling of the skin and you already recognize how things have worked before. So you kind of know that if you switch it up a little bit, it's going to work.
mhm,
But that becomes intuitive over time and repetition.
mhm, mhm, which is
Yeah.
necessary, which is needed, which is nice. To have that reliability in the moment, to where where, this is gonna work, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Ready to be like, oh, so,
But that's there's the risk. There's always the risk. It may not work. There's never this guarantee. It's it might be like a really, really strong likelihood.
mhm,
Mhm.
This is most likely going to work really well.
mhm,
There's yeah, but there's always contingency. It's always ever present. And so and that's the I mean that therein it's like there's that anxiety you feel, and that's the truth of it, and that's what's the part that you love, right? And hate at the
Mhm.
same time.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
excitement of it.
Right. Yeah. No, we talked about this before, I think, and it really is. There's a universal quality to it, I believe. So I think that's all really like, yeah, all very pertinent to what we're talking about. And so anyway, uh, something that like I wanted to talk about today was this idea of differing perspectives. So we're talking about like perspective, um, and we look at different sorts of artwork from all over the world, right? From different cultures. I think we see that like the depiction of representation, art, spaces are handled differently, and so and a really I think a really clear example of this is sort of looking at say the Renaissance from Italy and the 1400s, 1500s, this era, um, versus even older Chinese landscape painting, right? So I wanted to sort of show. Let me see if I can show some of this real quick. So see if we can show this now. This guys, yeah. This. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, back to it. Share my screen. Yes. Okay. Cool. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've got some, I can attribute these images slightly. I'm trying to work on some, this concept. And there's lots of this information, of course, online that you could find it, but sort of this difference, right, between, like, say, the East and the West and how, perspective is sort of seen. And this pertains to tattoos. We're gonna get there. We're gonna bring it back to tattooing. So don't kill me. But right. So let's see. Da, 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 da. Yeah, this one particularly. Let's see. Yeah, so this one is from an artist unknown. It's a fresco. Um, it's in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And so what I wanted to point out is that so we can see. Um, see, when is it? What date is it attributed to? Probably anywhere between like the 1300s, possibly earlier. Um, so if you look, like, we could see, it's pretty disconcerting. I feel like if you look at this image, and it's like you get the sense that there's some buildings and stuff, right? But it's like we can see the roof of this one. You know what I mean? And then, like, we could see underneath of this, like, veranda or whatever this thing is, right? Um, there's all kinds of angles going all over the place. Like this ladder, it looks very almost sort of sideways kind of situation. Um, it's sort of strangely flattened out right here at this doorway. There's all kinds of angles going everywhere, right? Clearly, the artist is trying to depict like some space, but there isn't anything organizing, right? It is pretty intuitive. And so this is from Italy, and about the Renaissance era. We're starting to get into the Renaissance. Um, so let me see if I can. Sorry, spoil it. So this next image, though, is a much clearer sort of illustration of what we think about in terms of Western art. Uh, and it's sort of representing like linear perspective. So this one is Massimo de Panicelli, and it's titled "The Healing of the Cripple." Anyway, what we can see here is, like, for instance, this sort of opening here in this space, where there's the crippled person, and looks like a saint is probably going to heal them or something. As a, that's probably the story we're supposed to sort of get out of it. But you can see that this doorway, that we could imagine that it's like a just an open doorway. The ceiling and the floor are, they'd be parallel to each other, but because of this sort of use of perspective, these two parallel lines are appearing to converge at a center point. This gives us and all of these edges, actually, they're really sort of appearing to point to a very central point. And so this gives us sort of, everything is organized around a clear sort of principle. There's an eye level or horizon, and there's a vanishing point in the middle. There's a scientific base, there's a mathematical basis for this sort of thinking. Like when we look at photography closely sort of, it sort of closely resembles this sort of single point of perspective that happens, right? And so this is what developed in the West, and it became sort of, canonized. It was, it's been very important. But you can see it's fairly stiff. I mean, it's very difficult to sort of, make mathematical the actual experience of like seeing stuff. While there is something that, you can, again, make it predictable, you can make it sort of very sort of convincing, there's something that it lacks in terms of like the same experience that we get when we're actually sort of seeing things. So I want to contrast that with this idea of Chinese landscape painting. And so what we see here, again, it's like it's intuitive, right? There isn't this sort of being constrained by the notion of a single point of view and eye level. So as we look at this, we're probably drawn. For me, I end up being sort of drawn to the lower left-hand side. There's a small figure is looking at the next figure. This one, see, I can attribute this image as well. So it's a painting by an artist named Ma Lin in the 13th century. So ink and color on silk, that's it's a scroll. Anyways, very beautiful. But again, this sort of intuitive kind of, we are almost moving through this image in a perspective way, right? So there is depth, but again, it doesn't have this sort of singular point of view. This sort of response to this problem of like sort of depicting space was in part because of the nature of these paintings, that they were done on really long scrolls, so you'd almost kind of see them, one segment at a time. But there's, again, we're sort of contrasting there was some elegant parts to the Western notion of perspective, but then there was some drawbacks to it. Again, with here, there's some elegance that's happening, but again, there's, as a composition, it might start to, like if you step back and try to look at the whole thing, there may be some parts that somewhat fall apart to it. I have another, these scrolls, for instance. It is, this is all part of one long scroll. I can attribute this image as well. Well, I got it from, I can't attribute this one. There's a generic attribution. But anyway, so in this painting, again, it's sort of like, seeing it all as one composition. It's a bit disconcerting. It's a bit discombobulating. What it really feels like is that we're supposed to kind of go in and look at individual slices, individual sections. And then, at that level, it really starts to make a lot more sense. And so depending on like kind of where you're at, where you're from in the world, it might very well be that like sort of seeing these ways of seeing, if you like, are, they're enculturated into you, that you're more uh, used to seeing things certain way. I would almost suggest that like cartoons can be like this too, right? Like if you're used to seeing cartoons, like there's a sort of training, a conditioning that happens as as you uh, see the way things are depicted, and it becomes very almost second nature. So whenever when you look at more images that are sort of similar to it, you end up sort of seeing them. You can appreciate them more, right? First time seeing something, it can be strange, right? For lots of reasons, but in this particular instance, I'm trying to contrast these different sorts of thoughts. All right, so now let's get to the tattoo stuff. 1 second here. Let me see. I'll share my one more share here. Yes. Okay. This one. Okay. All right. So this is tattooer Jesse Ricks. So if you're not familiar, uh, does these amazing sort of perspectival drawings and stuff in tattoos. It's sort of like this. It's like we've got all these we've got all these sort of ways of working, making space. Whether it's sort of having this principle of like a vanishing point, having a principle of eye level or something like that. Again, like I was saying, photography. If you're using photography, you're going to be subject to this idea uh, of linear perspective. It's very close to linear perspective, right?
Mm.
Photographic perspective, it's very similar. Um, in this image, right, what we're seeing is like there's a photograph in the middle, right? What we would sort of imagine wherever the eye level would be at in this photograph is in a different place than where it's being depicted in the and as far as all of this geometry that sort of is breaking up around it and stuff. So it's very clever, because it does work. The the vanishing points, the single vanishing points, of these images. I think that they would probably be an alignment. If this is too technical, I apologize. But right here in the very center of the spine, very symmetrical in that way. But they're in different locations. One here you can see up here, and then the other one would be it'd be much lower, right? And so,
Mm.
but they're very cleverly combined because as a composition, this works. This works very well. Um, so the point that I'm really trying to get at is um, that there's all these concerns about perspective that we're going to have. How do we use it in our tattooing and stuff? But what might be sort of like what might be sort of like slightly more important might be this sort of idea of how the tattoo fits, how it flows on the body. So again, like we're talking about, these overall compositions as we're looking at them, there were some issues. If you look at a painting from the Renaissance or, all the way basically up until till modernity, you could see like, it's within a square or rectangle oftentimes. Um, it's in framed, right? It's in frame within a very sort of geometrical frame oftentimes. And so this centers your vision and everything, like this back piece in a way is it's much more similar to how we would sort of think about like a painting in a frame. Um, but even still in this, there's still muscles and stuff that are moving. There's still flows of the body that must be taken into consideration. So um, the 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 importance, right, of having a composition that looks a certain way on the body and then can depict space, or that, even if it's, say a tribal design or something, just black work design on skin. Um, Again, you're still thinking about there's still this figure against the ground, right? There's still a bit of distance that happens pictorially. Um, So I'm like, what I'm toying around with is this sort of idea of like, how important is the fitting, is the flowing and stuff, because it is so important how we think about like perspective, how we think about how to depict representations. All right, here's another very cool one as well. I love these videos, process and stuff. So if you're in the reinventing, if you're in the groups, if you're in the curriculum, um, Jesse Ricks uh, did a chapter as a guest writer, the 103 level, and so in his chapter he talks about how he uses perspective, and he says he doesn't really like it's more intuitive for him, right? But I think that we can clearly see what's also very important, is the way that it fits, right? Is the way that it
Hmm.
flows. And so it's trying to kind of marry these things together in a way that like is a third perspective. Thinking about this history of how composition is made, how perspective is sort of derived in the West. They were thinking about this, thinking about the square, thinking about the rectangle or whatever, trying to sort of bring people through a window into a new world. In the East, they were using this scroll and they were sort of looking at individual sort of segments that were always, going to be moving. We as tattoo artists, we sort of have a sort of halfway, but halfway between. Right?
Mhm.
We have this, we have like a body that's always going to be sort of, moving, and we're going to have little segments, right? But again, we are still creating these windows for people to, to sort of to travel into, visually speaking. But again, there's this sort of there's another composition, and that's the composition of the body itself. Um, so yeah, I've been thinking about this, trying to synthesize these things together, and oh, see here, this one too, I think is
Nice.
fairly intuitive. Of course, very beautiful, and mm, there's a lot of this just really smart ways of going about it in terms of there's a there's difference there's a lot of contrast. If we
Yeah.
think there's a lot of contrast, and the contrast is used or is developed by the differing edges, right? There's like different softer edges, there's firmer edges, there's sharp lines. Um, there's also a difference in tonal value range. There's really dark stuff, really light. Um, what's really interesting too is this golden hour light. A lot of times when we think about atmospheric perspective, the general rule is that like it becomes cooler and bluer and stuff. But in this case, we can see it's very deep sort of space of the forest. It's very warm. So, but it still draws your eye back there. So it's magical in that way. It's very, very fascinating. The cool is used up here. Um, uh, what is that? What is the mycelium, right? That's what the mushroom sort of superstructure underneath, right? There,
Hmm.
mycelium. It's what it sort of feels like down there, kind of a, you know, rhizomatic or something like that. And then there's these this hexagon things that he really likes to use, which are very cool, and a signature, right? And very neat sort of. Let's look at just another couple. Love it. So all those shapes, they really do kind of feel like they're converging onto a point somewhere.
Hmm.
But then there's more space back. There's space, right? There's an additional space that's sort of provided back there, and it has its own kind of thing going on. Uh, it could be from like could be from some like sort of telescope image, or it could be just completely invented. Um, but there's a lot of flow, there's a lot of fit, and then also there's this sort of this this illusion to space and perspective and stuff that's happening. Um, it's almost like a scroll. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, the body's not a perfect cylinder, the arm's not a perfect cylinder and stuff, but still there's kind of this almost scroll like thing that's happening. But somehow, so in the chapter, Jesse Ricks talks about how, there's a bit of an, like the body starts to tell him where to sort of place these angles so it starts to feel right. Um, and that's all that I can think that must be happening. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like it'd be so challenging to sort of find a single point that would make it all work, especially as you sort of
Mhm.
travel around.
I'm trying to map that out in my head, and I'm like, all right, here's the vanishing point.
Yeah.
I erase all of these lines and
Right.
make sure all these are parallel.
I don't know. Well, I think so. Again, I wanted to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier. I really feel like there's um, clearly this artist understands linear perspective at a very deep level, but the fact he can sort of put it to the side and still sort of make it look that way. Does this make sense? What I'm saying? Unlearning these rules. You know what I mean? You had a rule like we were talking about in the Renaissance. There was linear perspective. It had to be a certain way. Um, and again, that's this whole idea of like sacred geometry and stuff. Is this same thing? You know,
Mhm.
it's an abstraction. It's useful. Again, when we sort of use it, it becomes affective. But like but yeah, no, I think there's got to be some sort of way that you are able to navigate it where you know you're able to put these things down in like in a certain way. You're able to sort of leave it aside to a certain degree, so that way you can actually do the thing you're trying to do. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That was what I that was it. I just wanted to talk about that today. I'm trying to write about it. Look at this one. It like this little bright spot like hurts your eyes almost. It's so bright.
Mhm.
How do you how'd you do that? Um, yeah, neat. There's all sorts of and I like seeing artists that can have a very sort of you know uh, recognizable signature and style. I think that can be really delightful to see. Here we can see like these ones are, this one is sort of going off over to there, and then this one's going down to there, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? These shapes are they're playful, right? They're unapologetic and they're playful, and they move around the space in a really interesting way. So yeah, this was what I wanted to share with you all and to talk about. But also this idea of like this importance of how the tattoo fits and how it flows, as probably being the thing that should that should that should not be overlooked, right? So however it is we're doing, whatever it is we're doing, think about that first. you know um, Working out how to depict and represent stuff, especially like if you're building onto something that's pre-existing. It can be full of challenges.
Mhm.
Try to make something cohesive, and it may not ever be truly cohesive. But um, but yeah, I
It's
wanted
kind
to
of the literal
thoughts.
definition of thinking outside of the box. Because as artists, we were taught on, flat rectangle or square canvases. And now we have to still fill our canvas, but our canvas isn't even close to rectangle or square. But we've still got to fill that canvas to create movement and depth and flow with the body.
It's three-dimensional, but it's not not completely predictable three-dimensional, right? Like you could have a cube and you know, like, walls on a building or something, you're doing a mural or whatever, or even like a column, you're decorating that. The body has its own needs and requirements.
Hmm.
But we're always layering things, again, like even if you have like just a design on top of the skin, right? It's just black design, lettering, even that sort of a thing. It's a layer, skin's behind it,
Yeah.
like theoretically, or however,
And even
however
if
you,
you
however
think
you
of
would
an
want to
arm
word it.
as a cylinder and you do it that way, if you're painting a column that's a cylinder, it's not going to bend and move.
True.
But
It's
the
true.
cylinder of an arm is going to bend and move, and things are going to get distorted in certain areas and stretch. You don't want things to look absolutely out of place when someone bends their arm a certain way or their leg a certain.
Yeah, no, I think that's plus there's a definite front and a back to a body, you know what I mean? There's always,
Mhm.
there are parameters, and so someone told me a long time ago, and this makes sense. Like parameters are like the banks of a river. Sort of it makes a river, right? It directs the flow of energy so that way it becomes a thing. If it didn't have any parameters, it would just sort of flatten out into, it could become nothing.
Wetland.
This sort of an idea, right? We need parameters, so these limits are, we don't know where they are until we butt up against it. We don't know where the limits are until we test it and find where they are. Um, Kind of like this show. What are the limits of our audience? Will they, will they stay with us through, through all the things that we talk about? Um, but, but yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, I would like to, if anybody has, thoughts or things to share or other subjects or something you want to talk about, please. I want to open up the floor to a little conversation.
Well, I don't know, man. Like it's hard to take a 2D image, put it on a 3D surface, and then try to make the 2D look 3D on top of the 3D surface when you've got peaks and valleys and everything you got to worry about. Um, so to work within the parameters of that, because you can. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Good talk. It's a lot to think about.
It's a lot of changing of dimensions as you're, you know, rendering it. And then when it's done, it's got to have depth, it's got to have value. Plus, it's got to fit the body.
Mhm.
It's too much to think about.
Yeah. I
Like it's
think
like
that's
you can't.
why
You can't.
I think that's why your brain makes it intuitive. Because trying to think about all of that at once will short circuit your brain. And I'm already a little crazy. I don't need to add to that. So I think that's why we probably have a natural penchant for that as artists. Art can be taught, but if you have a predisposed talent for it, you're more likely to become intuitive at it.
You can start to trust yourself again. I you- I feel like, so again, this might be too far of a reach, um, but I guess there was this very famous study that was done where researchers, they took a group of children and had them draw a self portrait, and so these young children, they immediately reached for all the colors in the crayon box, and they just made this very sort of wild, sort of these colorful portraits of themselves. They sometimes didn't they barely depicted whatever they look nothing, it's like nowhere near like reality at all. It's just like this is, this explosion of creative energy. um Same researchers, they took the same group of children a few years later after they'd gone through some schooling, and asked them to repeat the experiment, repeat the project. um and all of them, instead of grabbing for crayons, grabbed the sort of the gray pencil, and were very sort of rigidly sort of like, here's my eye, and then there's my mouth, and yada, so on and so forth. um and so the researchers took this to be this indication that obviously school like stifles the creative spirit and stuff. um but there's a theorist, Slavoj Žižek. He says that it's like, he says the opposite. He says no, this is a clear depiction of progress, of a spirit, that it's, you have to go through this, sort of this abstraction, right, where you learn to abstract things. And it's, so moving through to the, from the colorful explosion to the dull gray sort of abstraction is the process of becoming. And then it's like eventually you move through that, you move sort of out of it, like a child, right? As a child, you grow up, and then eventually you leave, right? You know what I mean? You grow up, and then you eventually go off. Followers are different, right? If you're a follower, you just follow along forever, you know what I mean? But a child is, that's the theory. You know what I mean? You grow up, and then you move off. um and so I think, as that's a part of our development too, like we've got to go through these stages, these learning phases, eventually to sort of get rid of them, eventually to sort of trust
Mm.
yourself again. But you have to sort of go through, you have to like go through that phase of development where where you learn what you don't know, right? To paraphrase what Kyle said earlier, to understand that you don't know anything at the end.
Mhm.
You can know that, absolutely, right? You don't know anything at the end. That's the I love that bit.
Yeah, yeah. So like if we take the concept of the tattoo community as a whole, and we put that in the entire history of tattooing and stuff like that, and we put that in the same area, um of like, well, I guess it's more of like Western tattooing, that part, because like like over Japan, China, everything like that, their tattooing is a lot more refined already. But how the tattoos were like very small, really cluttered, this, that, and the other thing. You had your American traditional stuff, but it's like patch, patch, patch. Like how chaotic the overall composition used to be compared to now. With just thousands of trials and error. How more refined it is, and how more like parameters it's put on itself, but like how much more creative it is now. So like to have the structure within well, basically anything. A kid on a set schedule is a happy kid. Like having structure is like your foundation to build off of. So with like the rules um and parameters and everything like that, you know what you can do and you know what you can't do. But like you said earlier, you got to know the rules to break the rules. So if you know what you can do and you can't do, and you need to get to a certain destination, um you kind of see what you push your boundaries, you see what you can do with it, to not like either break the rule or just see how far you can make that rule bend. So yeah, like it totally makes sense to where it's like um the kids, the first time, everything was just like, crayons, chaotic, everything going on, and then like a couple of years later, it's a little bit more refined. And it's, yeah, I guess I can see and understand like how it may be a little bit more like some people will look at it and see how it's like less creative, but like in technique and theory and like how they applied it and everything, like it's a lot more creative than just scribbling around with one color. You got layering. Oh yeah. So I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, that's a really, really cool concept.
I love that. I really do. I think, that again, like sort of second what you're saying about American traditional, that it is becoming more refined through
Mhm.
through the community coming together and through like trial and errors and stuff like that. So it's um, there's a beauty to the old stuff, right? But of course, it's sort of like built on that foundation.
Mhm.
Oh, we've got a special guest joining us.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, Elise, how are you?
Hey. Oh,
Still connecting to the audio.
Hello.
Hey, how are
Hi.
you, Elise? So nice to see you.
I'm pretty good.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm
how
fresh
was
off
the
the train.
Fresh off the train, huh?
Yeah, we took the overnight train home to Chicago.
Oh, dang.
wow?
Yeah.
Dang.
Excellent.
Oh,
So glad you could join us. We were just talking about tattoos and stuff. So
mm, the
um,
usual. Oh,
yeah, excellent. Yeah, how was your trip?
it was beautiful. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm allergic to wheat, and everything down there has wheat
Oh
in
no.
the
Wow.
food. So, if I sound like a baritone, that's why. But
Yeah, they love to thicken things with a roux.
yeah, even stuff that they don't think is in there.
It's
I'll
in there.
ask and be like, "Does this have wheat in it?" I don't think so, and then I'm sick the next day. So it's whatever. But no, it was absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to go back one day. It's definitely we were there for 7 full days,
Oh
and it didn't feel like enough time.
no, it's never
Yeah,
enough time. I've been there for 7 days. I've been there for 2 weeks. I've been there for three. It's never enough time.
yeah. It was beautiful. The weather was beautiful. It starts off 70 in the morning, and there's a nice breeze all day long. It's beautiful.
Terrible.
We went, yeah. Yeah, and then I get back home today, and that's why I'm wrapped up in a blanket. It's like 50 degrees in Chicago.
Oh,
But yeah, we went to the New Orleans Museum of Art on our last day. It was absolutely beautiful.
mm,
It was 3 floors of just like Indian Christian art, which I've never seen before. Um, all of these different African pieces. They had a Picasso there. Uh, it was beautiful. It was stunning.
Jeez. That'd be so cool. Be able to see
Definitely
all that.
go.
Uh-huh. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
We were right off Bourbon Street, so we heard all the drunk people wandering around at all times of night.
oh,
The various colors of New Orleans.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
my
Definitely
favorite city in the whole world.
it was beautiful. I saw some interesting tattoos.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I saw some beautiful ones and I saw some intriguing ones.
It's
I
putting it
saw one,
nicely.
a guy had, it was just a giant black rectangle just on the top of his head. I don't
And
know what
cover
the,
up.
oh, maybe. Because I was thinking, well, at first I thought, I know some people get like hair kind of tattooed on their head sometimes. I'm like, I don't think they did that on purpose though, because it does not look like a regular hairline.
Yeah, that's definitely a cover up.
Okay,
Well,
that makes more sense.
one of my favorite paintings is it's called Black Square, and so it's
Mm,
just a painting of a black square. So maybe it's a
maybe he's
maybe
in
it's
your
an
club.
homage to a
Yeah.
famous work of art.
Hmm.
um, yeah, no, it's that's I I had a crazy experience this weekend too. I went to the convention and I got to be
Mm,
a judge for the tattoo competition the on the final night.
Oh,
one of
cool.
one of the judges, right? And so I had to look at all these tattoos and try to pass judgment on them, and it's like, you know, at a certain point in the night, we're really, like the best of the show, and some of the other judges were talking to each other like, God, we can't tattoo like this. We can't tattoo this good. What are we doing? But it's beside the point, right? Like the judgment that we're sort of, trying to do on these works. It's like we're trying to think about all of the aspects of it, and we're trying to it ends up coming down to your own taste. You know what I mean? Like what it is you like and what it is you think is what you think is best or whatever. And so many tattoos though. It's just like, gotta like wash your eyes off, right? Like you've seen so much. It is incredible to see incredible works of art and the feeling that it gives you, I love going to the museum too. I think there's a similarity, there's a parallel there. Like you kind of get, it's just sort of, you see so many different things. You go to the museum, it's like you're just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
In part, that's what we were talking about a little bit today. That different cultures have these different ways of depicting the world, different ways of seeing it. And so when you go to a museum or you go to a tattoo convention, it's like you're gonna be sort of inundated with all this stimulation, so many different takes on stuff. It is tough to discern, like what is you even like the best, I suppose, but there's something really fun about that too, I think. So, yeah.
I can tell you about one. This has nothing to do with tattoos or art. Well, it could be art. Comedic art. So I went with my parents. It was a family trip that I went on. And we were going to look for dinner. It's our last night. And we're in our Uber and the lady's like, oh, there's traffic because there's a parade coming. Now, the reason why we had to get in an Uber is because the public transit had gone down because a biker decided to bike by a trolley while it was moving, and they got bumped, and that bungled up everything. So it was double backed up because of a parade, and somebody decided to jump in front of a trolley car. So we finally we just get out of the Uber. We're like, we'll just leave. We'll figure our way out from here. And then we hear people like, oh, the parade's coming. And then we see people on bikes with no clothes on. Various states of undress. And we realize that we've ended up in the middle of a gay pride naked biking parade.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And then we look around at other people. We're like, oh, there's other people here naked too. And then my mother turns bright red. Black people aren't supposed to turn red. She just turns bright red. My dad is laughing maniacally behind the both of us because these people were very bold. They were just 100% naked, popping wheelies, jumping up and down on bikes, waving hello. There was a naked mermaid. Yeah, it was interesting. Every age, shape, and size you can think of was there. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially not expecting to see that stuff, and they'd be like,
no,
oh, okay.
We were expecting parade floats.
Yeah.
That's a quick study in the human form.
Pardon?
That's a quick study in the human form.
Yes. Oh, it was there were hundreds.
That's not surprising.
I guess I just can't get the image of jumping up and down out of my head, and then it's especially weird if your parents are there too. It seems like a Freudian nightmare. You know what I mean? It's so funny.
Like,
It's
I
awesome.
would feel less weird if my parents weren't here.
Yes.
But like a dude did just wave hello with his little guy, right, and just bounced on by.
Wow. No,
But
it would be weird to feel awkward. You know, like you have all your clothes on, and you're the one that feels awkward. Like there's that weird dream. You know, like when you get up in front of you get in front of class and you're supposed to present, and you realize like I don't have any clothes on. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Everybody's looking at you and stuff. It's like, if everybody was naked and you have your clothes on, and they're staring at you, what's your problem?
You'd still feel just as awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know before that's the preview. My therapist gets to hear about that later.
Yeah. It sounds quite traumatic, so
Yeah.
but hopefully there was an enjoyment that you were able to have from this.
Slightly cathartic.
Awesome. No, that's
You know,
awesome.
they're living the dream. I'm not that bold.
Yeah, the grass is always greener. You know what I mean? Grass is always greener. So, I think well, I'm so glad that we were all able to, glad you could make it today at least. I'm glad everybody else, Amber, Kyle, you were able to come today too. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, Creature says, love the show. Yeah, thank you, Creature. Love you too.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Creature, congratulations. I saw you got accepted.
Yeah, it's important to be accepted. And so
It's awesome.
yeah. So we are yeah, just so blessed to have have this community, have people that check out this show. Again, if you're still watching at this point, you should like and subscribe, and then of course you can feel invited to zoom on in as well. It's always
Yeah.
nice to have to have new participants, and again, I really enjoyed meeting some new students this weekend at the convention. It was very cool. Um, the next live drawing for tattooers event that I'm going to do is going to be in October at the Paradise convention, and so more details on that. But it's been really fun getting to do these live events, and of course, and to meet up with you all as well every Monday. It's a privilege. So and I appreciate you all very much. It's about that time. We should wrap it up. Why don't we do some quick sign offs so that way we can tell everybody where they can find us at. Amber, you were here first. Give us your sign offs, please.
Okay, I'm Amber Morgaine, and you can find me at Luxury Tattoos in Egg Harbor City, New Jersey, and on all social media platforms under Amber Morgaine.
Amber, again, it's always great having you here. Appreciate you coming, and
Thank you. It's great being here.
yeah, no, it's yeah, you're definitely a part of it, and so, and your enthusiasm, it like really charges me. You know what I mean? It gives me like it gives me energy as well. So,
I'm glad.
yeah, thank you. So I'm excited to see some of your new practice skins, and then your new tattoos and stuff you're going to be doing really
I
soon.
need to
So
remember to take pictures again because I'm horrible at that. I'll show you more of my progress.
every time you got to take a picture.
I know. I constantly forget.
When I first started tattooing, it was like, you had to take a picture with a camera and it was film. You had to develop that shit. So I've got like tubs of tattoo pictures, right? And they're all blurry. Or in front of the lens or something like that. They're all. I mean, like there's the tattoo part. It's indiscernible, but then there's there's the photographic quality is terrible. Anyway, we've got these phones on on our camera, with cameras and stuff that are pretty good. Take a picture every time. Take a picture every time, and then you'll be able to show off some of that beautiful work. So do that.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
got to get in that
Yeah.
habit. I always forget to sign in too. It's the little tiny things I forget about.
Well, yeah, nobody's perfect. So you're doing great though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kyle, you were next. Let's have it.
All right. My name is Kyle Olson. I tattoo out of Tucson, Arizona in a shop called Trinity Art Collective. If you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on the website, trinityartcollective.com, or you can hop onto Instagram and find me at Olson_tattoos, OLSON. And thanks for having me, James. It's always fun. It's always good to get like philosophical on ideas and just get into like different nitty-gritty things and different aspects like of stuff I haven't taught before. And it's always fun. Always fun.
Thank you so much. No, again, I really, I liked, the back and forth. I like the back and forth we all had on this. You know what I mean? And so,
Definitely.
if it's just me talking here, it's like boring. So anyway, I need you all. I need you, to keep coming back and stuff like that. So we have conversation because I think that's ultimately like that's the way that we're gonna, sort of reflect back to each other what it is that we're, putting out. So anyway, appreciate you so much for coming, Kyle. Thank you. And yeah, it was great conversation, great show today. So Elise, you made it. I'm so
I
excited. I'm
did.
so glad you were able to hop on today. Thank you for telling us about your trip. And again, it's just been so cool to sort of watch, everything that's been going on with you've been sharing your, life with the community here. So we're all rooting for you, interested in what's going on. Tell us where we can find you.
All right. I am Elise Morrow. I am a 3D artist, and you can find me at elisemorrowvisuals.com and on Instagram and ArtStation at Elise Morrow Visuals. And thanks for letting me come on here and babble about random stuff. Crash the party.
You had no, it was totally worth it. There was great. You shared some great stories from the road. So
I hope I brought a lot of philosophical.
I think so. There was some insight. Definitely some insight that well, certainly psychoanalytical insight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'll let you know what my therapist says about it when she.
So yeah, no, I'm glad glad it wasn't me. That's all. But no,
I
it was
suggest
amazing.
you'll
Yeah.
learn a lot of things about yourself.
Yeah. God. Well, anyway, I'm glad you had a good time. Glad you're back. So just to say hey to the chat, thank you, chat, and of course, again, congratulations to Creature on all your success. Keep it going. Yeah, excellent work. And thank you to the viewers. Couldn't do it without you. I'm James Wisdom. This has been Drawing for Tattooers. I tattoo in Indianapolis at Artistic Skin Design. You can find me at Tattooing Wisdom on social media and tattooingwisdom.com. Again, thank you, everybody. Happy drawing, and we will see you next stream. All right. Bye.
Have a good week.
You
Have a
too.
good week.